Sometimes he ride the horses around the place. Sometimes he ride the motorcycles around the place. Um, do different little odds, and then sometimes they play tennis.
For decades, devoted followers of the king have puzzled over an unusual connection between a Memphis spiritual leader and Elvis Presley's legacy. Now, a remarkable account from someone who worked inside the walls of Graceland is bringing that enigma back into focus. She served the icon for 10 years, witnessing moments that remain hidden from public view. What secrets did she carry before her passing? This is Crime Brief. Sarah McKini was a household worker who became one of the few people to experience Elvis the way his inner circle did. Arriving at the mansion in the spring of 1967 through a domestic agency, she was intended to be a temporary replacement. However, her dedication caught the attention of Vernon Presley, who saw her potential. What began as a short-term position transformed into a permanent role spanning the next decade. She remained at Graceland through the final moments of 1977. Her responsibilities expanded well beyond typical housekeeping duties. McKini prepared meals, managed the household rhythm, and adapted to the unusual schedule that defined life inside the mansion. Elvis operated on his own timeline, awake through the night, sleeping during daylight hours. This meant McKini adjusted her work patterns entirely around his preferences. When he descended the stairs at 3 in the morning seeking nourishment, she knew exactly what would satisfy him. She became familiar with his tastes. Simple comfort dishes rooted in Southern tradition. Peanut butter combined with banana between soft bread. Hearty meatloaf prepared precisely how he preferred it. Warm cornbread, fried specialties, and home-style preparations filled the kitchen regularly. She saw the man who existed beyond the stage tired, reflective, authentic, yet her value transcended culinary skill. McKini witnessed Elvis during unguarded moments. When the public wasn't present, when cameras weren't rolling, when fame couldn't reach him inside those walls. She observed him in casual clothing, joking with companions, or sitting alone with his thoughts. She understood the distinction between the persona known globally and the individual living privately. The king of rock and roll maintained a different existence within Graceland's boundaries. Those who knew him recalled McKini's description of his character: kind, thoughtful, and genuinely generous. Unlike many who profited from proximity to his fame, she guarded her recollections carefully. She resisted the temptation to commercialize what she'd witnessed. Instead, she offered measured perspectives about the human being she'd known. Her most intimate memories involved spiritual moments rarely seen by outsiders. Quiet evening gatherings where Elvis and his household sang religious hymns together. Not performances intended for audiences, not rehearsals for shows, simply peaceful occasions where faith was expressed within family circles. Such recollections provided fans an alternative perspective. They revealed someone capable of stepping away from entertainment obligations and simply existing. As the years advanced, McKini observed Elvis's physical condition deteriorating. The summer of 1977 brought unmistakable changes to the mansion's atmosphere. Weight had accumulated substantially. Fatigue seemed perpetual. He exhibited signs of physical discomfort. His emotional states fluctuated between jovial moments and contemplative silences. His unconventional sleep patterns affected everyone surrounding him. Yet despite these challenges, he remained engaged with life. Elvis maintained ambitions, work continued, concert dates remained scheduled. He spent hours at Graceland engaged with companions and staff. Racquetball sessions happened regularly right up until his final days. This detail carries significance because it contradicts the narrative of someone who had surrendered to his circumstances. To observers in his immediate circle, August 16th wasn't preceded by obvious warning signs of what would transpire. The hours before his death seemed unremarkable, ordinary, even routine. Early morning hours brought Elvis back from recreational activity. He approached the kitchen area where McKini was present. She offered to prepare him something for consumption. He declined food. Instead, he requested water. A staff member retrieved liquid in a plastic container. Elvis consumed it rapidly. Then, he proceeded upstairs. Hours afterward, he was discovered unresponsive in the bathroom. For McKini, that moment requesting refreshment crystallized into her final interaction with him. If Elvis maintained activity, continued planning, and demonstrated engagement with existence, then questions emerge. What happens in those final days when nobody's watching? The unspoken beliefs of those who were there following his death, McKini carried forward the observations she'd collected. She maintained discretion about her experiences because she refused to transform his private existence into salacious gossip. Periodically, throughout subsequent decades, she participated in documentaries and written accounts, but always with reverence toward his memory. She never positioned herself as someone exposing hidden truths. Rather, she spoke as someone describing the individual she'd encountered daily. As years accumulated, her perspective on his final period became increasingly nuanced. McKini believed Elvis wasn't simply surrendering to his circumstances, he was experiencing exhaustion, physical limitation, and relentless external pressure. Yet simultaneously, he pursued pathways forward. This distinction matters significantly. Popular narratives often reduce Elvis's ending to superficial explanations. The typical version emphasizes his medical problems, pharmaceutical dependence, weight fluctuations, and abrupt departure. McKini's memories introduced complexity to this oversimplified framework. She believed he remained forward-thinking. She recalled him expressing desire for distance from constant demands. Fame had dominated his entire adult existence. Every location held expectant faces. Colleagues and employees depended upon his continued prosperity. Society demanded his unchanging excellence and eternal relevance. McKini understood this burden weighed heavily. She remembered him articulating hunger for simplicity and anonymity. According to her recollections, Elvis yearned to live without the enormous weight of global expectation. He wanted recognition as an ordinary individual rather than perpetual superstardom. He reportedly discussed escaping the constant noise and seeking genuine renewal. McKini also became aware of his medical arsenal. His conditions demanded pharmaceutical intervention. She witnessed the numerous bottles, containers, and prescriptions surrounding him. Health challenges were undeniably serious. Yet McKini resisted characterizing him as careless or indifferent to his own survival. Rather, she envisioned him as someone struggling to maintain equilibrium despite mounting obstacles. She believed he searched for understanding and solutions. Literature exploring wellness, metaphysical exploration, and personal transformation captured his attention. To McKini, this suggested active contemplation about his direction and purpose. He wanted recognition of what had created suffering and identification of improved pathways. This doesn't invalidate the seriousness of his medical situation. Conditions were genuinely dangerous. This also doesn't establish proof of elaborate plans or hidden intentions. It merely illustrates how one individual who spent years near him understood his behaviors and choices. McKini's interpretation of those final hours remained significant. He'd engaged in physical activity mere hours prior. He'd played recreational sports, returned home, requested water, and retired upstairs. From her vantage point, these actions didn't signal someone who'd completely surrendered. She believed he was depleted and sought sleep. Subsequently, he entered unconsciousness and couldn't be revived. McKini experienced unusual occurrences at the property following his passing. She maintained her position at Graceland and occasionally worked during evening hours when the structure was otherwise empty. Illumination in the trophy display room would activate and deactivate while she completed her tasks. She recalled one peculiar instance while resting near the wardrobe exhibition when she felt someone brush her lower leg. She later joked that he was rousing her back to her obligations. McKini never framed these experiences as verification that he'd somehow returned physically. They were subjective moments she'd undergone. She communicated about them conversationally, as though his presence remained connected to the location spiritually. These accounts joined the expanding collection of strange phenomena reported by Graceland inhabitants. Her memories held value for devotees because she'd spent extensive time with Elvis when he was removed from performance contexts. Those closest reveal the man behind the legend staff members who interacted with Elvis regularly encountered dimensions of his personality that mainstream audiences never accessed. Patricia Rosewell joined the Graceland household in 1963, working as one of his preferred culinary specialists. Her position permitted observation of Elvis in home environments, away from stages, recording equipment, and enthusiastic crowds. She crafted numerous items. He favored buttermilk biscuits, warm cornbread, and the iconic combination of peanut butter with banana. Over seasons, she evolved into someone trusted within his confidential sphere. Rosewell described Elvis as compassionate, dignified, and munificent. Post-mortem, she persisted in her employment with the broader Presley organization, remaining at the property through the late 1980s. Her prolonged proximity provided exceptional insight into the divergence between his public persona and domestic reality. Michael Edwards, among Elvis's long-standing personal security personnel, recognized gradual transformation. Edwards maintained a history spanning many years, allowing him to detect deviation from established patterns. He sensed Elvis's conduct had shifted from his historical baseline. Acquaintances attempted interventions regarding observed complications. Elvis, regrettably, resisted engagement with these concerns. He maintained assertions that circumstances remained satisfactory. This dynamic created hardship for surrounding individuals. They could witness his deterioration but couldn't persuade him to receive assistance. Edwards equally appreciated Elvis's positive qualities. Generosity defined his nature. He supported companions, liquidated financial burdens for others, and granted extravagant tokens of appreciation. He offered help without expectation of recognition or reciprocal obligation. Observing this beloved companion's struggles proved particularly agonizing for Edwards. He wasn't simply witnessing a performer's complications, he was watching a close friend gradually unravel. Richard Edwards possessed long-standing personal history with Elvis, predating his musical emergence. Their connection originated during childhood. Richard reputedly protected Elvis against aggressive peers during formative years. That single protective gesture initiated a friendship extending across subsequent decades. When Elvis initiated his professional journey, Richard maintained unwavering loyalty. He traveled alongside him, provided security, and eventually assumed formal protection responsibilities. Richard encountered Elvis's transformation from ambitious young man with professional aspirations into an internationally recognized cultural phenomenon. Because their history preceded fame, Richard maintained memory of the genuine individual beneath celebrity. He remembered the reserved, determined young man existing before financial resources, massive audiences, and overwhelming external expectations materialized. Tracy Sherman represented another trusted figure within Elvis's security infrastructure. He accumulated extensive time in proximity to the performer and observed his private existence firsthand. Sherman described Elvis as magnanimous, steadfast, and genuinely empathetic. He simultaneously witnessed escalating complications around his circumstances. Staff near Elvis grew increasingly anxious regarding his physical situation and behavioral patterns. Certain individuals attempted confronting him about these accumulating difficulties and facilitating professional assistance. As an alternative to acceptance, hostility expanded. Conditions deteriorated to such severity that Sherman and peers eventually lost professional positions. His involvement illustrated the complexity of honest discourse with someone resistant to acknowledgement of their own struggles. Joseph Martinez maintained continuous proximity to Elvis across numerous years. The individuals became acquainted during military deployment in Germany during the 1959 period. Their connection persisted following return to domestic life. Martinez subsequently assumed administrative responsibilities, managing Elvis's touring logistics, and remained intimately engaged during critical professional chapters. He was contemporaneous during the motion picture era, the significant 1968 comeback performance, and the substantial concert touring years following. Martinez equally retained recollections of Elvis as someone valuing interpersonal connections. When Martinez's household struggled with accommodation limitations, Elvis facilitated property acquisition and guaranteed financial sustainability. This behavior demonstrated the benevolent dimension that numerous individuals reminisced about. Winston Montgomery accumulated countless years in Elvis's confidence and evolved into a cherished companion. Graceland functioned as critical sanctuary, permitting escape from external pressures. Within those boundaries, he could relax and function with ordinary human characteristics. Montgomery recalled listening to Elvis vocalize through residential corridors, absent audience observation. He remembered frivolity, mirth, and celebratory atmosphere permeating the residence. However, as passages of time extended, Montgomery perceived mounting isolation surrounding Elvis. Lawrence Tatum was another companion who understood Elvis before and subsequent to celebrity achievement. He maintained relationships sufficiently intimate to function as co-principal attendant at his matrimonial ceremony with Priscilla in 1967. Tatum recollected Elvis as someone prioritizing loyalty and personal connection. He treasured individuals who maintained allegiance preceding his professional ascendancy. Simultaneously, Tatum comprehended the heaviness accompanying celebrity status. Financial prosperity and professional accomplishment arrived, but so did perpetual tension, relentless obligations, and complicated personal complications. Franklin Scholl retained recollection of a particularly stern dimension of Elvis. Elvis valued organization and meticulous execution. Disorder displeased him. He rejected disorganized residential spaces, unkempt vehicles, or careless professional conduct. He demanded personnel execute responsibilities conscientiously. Scholl likewise remembered Elvis as an exceptionally dedicated professional. He demanded excellence from himself. Meticulous attention captured his focus. Notwithstanding his substantial prosperity and celebrity, he insisted performance occurred correctly. The mysterious voice and the connection no one can ignore. A significant figure in Elvis's concluding era was his personal physician, Leonard Davies, commonly identified as Dr. Davies. He delivered medical intervention addressing numerous health complications, particularly sleep disturbances. Given Elvis's unconventional behavioral rhythms and demanding professional calendar, his physician visited Graceland with frequency. Pharmaceutical remedies subsequently became central to the emerging controversy surrounding Elvis's wellness. Following his passing, investigative attention concentrated upon Dr. Davies and his pharmaceutical prescriptions. Formal inquiries and judicial proceedings ensued. Dr. Davies asserted he'd operated exclusively with curative intentions toward his patient and companion. Yet persistent queries regarding Elvis's pharmaceutical regimen remained fundamentally unresolved. The controversy around his medical treatment never entirely diminished. As the complexity surrounding his passing persisted, someone's response grew impossible to disregard, particularly an individual who'd understood Elvis more thoroughly than most. The unexpected reaction that changed everything. The hypothesis connecting Pastor Christopher Wells with Elvis Presley has sustained continuous public engagement, predominantly due to reactions attributed to Priscilla Presley. Across extended periods, Internet participants have contrasted Christopher Wells's vocal characteristics with those of Elvis. Observers propose substantial acoustic similarity. Certain devotees have ventured further, proposing Christopher Wells might represent Elvis functioning under an alternate designation. No substantive documentation substantiates this assertion. Priscilla's reported reaction has intensified the narrative's intrigue. Rather than categorical affirmation or forceful repudiation, she's documented as acknowledging that Wells's vocal presentation can evoke memories of Elvis. This carries consequence because Priscilla possessed direct experience of Elvis as a human. She wasn't merely a casual listener encountering him through recordings. She shared substantial life passages alongside him. She intimately understood his acoustic signature. This consideration prompts certain enthusiasts to credit significance to her reaction. Conversely, vocal resemblance doesn't establish identity equivalence. The emotional component of the narrative deserves attention. Bereavement involving individuals cherished profoundly produces powerful responses to modest stimuli. A composition, a vocal quality, photographic representation, or straightforward auditory element can suddenly restore antiquated sensation into present consciousness. For Priscilla, encountering Christopher Wells's singing might reactivate memories connected to Elvis and their distributed years. The narrative proposes this represents recollection rather than empirical verification. Elvis constituted an enormous portion of Priscilla's biography. His vocal presentation represented one distinguishing characteristic. Hearing another person delivering comparable acoustic qualities would naturally generate profound emotional reactions. Identical mechanisms function for Elvis's admirers, many matured attending to his musical compositions. This potentially clarifies why the Christopher Wells hypothesis has retained enduring popularity. Priscilla's reaction, assuming accurate reporting, cannot substantiate Christopher Wells's actual identity. It merely demonstrates that the acoustic presentation reminds her of someone previously cherished. Ultimately, the narrative encompasses bereavement, passionate connection, and recollection. Elvis disappeared decades prior, but his vocal presentation and musical catalog persist in collective consciousness globally. For Priscilla, this psychological phenomenon might intensify given her individual history. The Christopher Wells hypothesis persists, but empirical information fails to demonstrate equivalent identity. Closing reflection, what are your thoughts regarding the ultimate moments of Elvis Presley's life? Contribute your perspective utilizing the commentary mechanism below. We appreciate your engagement. If the astonishing revelations about Elvis Presley's concluding hours, his terminal occasions at Graceland, and the individuals maintaining closest proximity captured your awareness, please demonstrate your appreciation through the thumbs-up mechanism and remember to subscribe to Crime Brief for additional compelling narratives. We'll see you throughout our subsequent installment.